El alcohol es parte de tantas reuniones y brindis que casi nunca nos detenemos a pensar qué le hace realmente a nuestro cerebro. ¿Sabías que cuando tomas, tu cerebro literalmente cambia su química? Se dispara el GABA, que es lo que te relaja, y se frena el glutamato, que te mantiene alerta. Además, sube la dopamina, esa misma que te hace querer repetir. Es así de fácil como el cerebro se siente atrapado en este ciclo. Y no es casualidad que te sientas raro cuando dejas de tomar de golpe. Tu cerebro se acostumbró a esa nueva química y al quitársela se desajusta. De ahí viene la ansiedad o el insomnio después de una borrachera fuerte. No es una debilidad tuya, es pura fisiología. Todo esto te lo explico a detalle en el video completo, así que dale play. Si quieres aprender de tu cuerpo sin misterios, suscríbete. Aquí seguimos repasando medicina juntos cada semana.
Look around any lively cocktail party, and you'll see the world's most widely accepted social ritual in action. We toast to celebrations and pour a glass to unwind at the end of a long day. Yet, behind this everyday practice hides a startling statistical reality. Roughly 20% of men and 10% of women will develop a severe, repetitive problem with this substance during their lifetime. We consume it to relax our nerves and help us drift to sleep. Biologically, however, it does the exact opposite. It is a chaotic agent that actively destabilizes our neurological architecture, erasing memories mid-conversation and fracturing our deepest sleep cycles. This diagram illustrates the body's first line of defense. When alcohol enters the system, the liver scrambles to neutralize it. Here, an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase breaks the ethanol down into acetaldehyde, a necessary step to prevent immediate toxic overload. But the liver can only process so much at a time. The remaining unprocessed ethanol escapes into the bloodstream, slipping easily past the blood-brain barrier and entering the body's master control panel. Once inside, it doesn't passively slow things down. It acts as an aggressive chemical hacker, rewriting the intricate signals our brain cells use to communicate with one another. To understand this chemical hacking, we have to look at the brain's natural baseline. Usually, our neurochemistry operates in a delicate, constant balancing act. On one side, we have GABA, a chemical that sends inhibitory signals to calm our nervous system down. On the other, we have NMDA receptors, which process excitatory signals to keep us alert and active. Acute intoxication violently tips this scale. Ethanol triggers a massive release of calming GABA, while placing physical roadblocks in front of excitatory NMDA receptors. This rapid chemical tilt forces the brain's reward centers into action. Surges of dopamine are released in the ventral tegmental area, and endorphins flood the synapses, creating that initial feeling of warmth and euphoria. But that pleasant tilt exacts an immediate neurological toll. Once blood alcohol concentrations cross 0.12 milligrams per milliliter, the brain's memory recording function abruptly shuts down. The person might remain awake, but their brain stops writing data to the hard drive, resulting in fragmentary or even total blackouts. Even the perceived benefit of falling asleep quickly turns out to be an illusion. As the chemical flood clears out of the bloodstream in the middle of the night, it ruins deep sleep architecture and fractures essential REM cycles. That euphoria is the physical signature of the brain's critical communication systems being hijacked and forced out of balance. For someone who drinks heavily and consistently, the brain has to adapt to survive. It cannot function in a permanent state of extreme depression, so it physically alters its own architecture to fight back against the constant artificial flood of GABA. To pull itself back to a functional baseline, the brain drastically reduces its own natural GABA production. Simultaneously, it massively upregulates its excitatory NMDA receptors. The scale forces itself back to the middle, but it is now locked in a state of immense, rigid tension. This creates a physiological crisis if the person suddenly stops drinking. Without the alcohol holding down the inhibitory side, all that extra excitatory hardware is left completely unopposed. The brain is suddenly and violently weighted towards severe hyperexcitation. Within 5 to 10 hours of sudden abstinence, the nervous system shifts into dangerous overdrive. The person endures severe hand tremors, extreme anxiety, and intense autonomic hyperexcitation, sweating heavily as their pulse races wildly. For about 2% of chronic users, this runaway neurochemical excitation goes completely out of control, triggering withdrawal seizures and a severe state of delirium known as delirium tremens. The nervous system becomes so overactive that it requires immediate medical intervention with clinical depressants just to safely calm the brain. Stranded in this state of extreme overdrive, the brain enters a life-threatening biological crisis. Beyond the invisible, day-to-day chemical fluctuations of intoxication and withdrawal, years of chronic exposure leave a visible physical toll on human tissue. We can observe the structural decay of the brain itself on medical scans. The organ actually shrinks, causing the grooves on the surface, the cortical sulci, to widen, while the fluid-filled ventricles inside expand. About 1% of chronic users also experience severe cerebellar degeneration, leaving them with an unstable, staggering walk. The damage radiates out to the edges of the body as well. Roughly 10% of chronic users develop peripheral neuropathy, a condition where the nerves degrade, causing a painful numbness and tingling in the hands and feet. Heavy alcohol use also enforces a secondary nutritional blockade. It actively prevents the intestines from absorbing thiamine. Without this crucial vitamin, susceptible individuals can develop devastating and permanent conditions like Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which completely destroys the ability to form new memories. This structural threat is exceptionally severe for a developing adolescent brain. Early, heavy exposure directly interrupts future cognitive capacity, permanently arresting how the brain processes signals and handles reward-seeking behaviors for the rest of their life. Yet, human physiology is remarkably adaptive. If a person commits to complete abstinence, many of these cognitive deficits fade, and a significant portion of the brain's structural atrophy is actually reversible over time. While human neurology is remarkably resilient, alcohol remains a profound systemic disruptor of the human mind.